Hello everyone and welcome to Power Hour. Our topic today is how to use HTML in Power Apps. We'll go over a few different ways, how you can send a pretty HTML email directly from Power Apps, a pretty email list of things directly from Power Apps, and also how you can use the rich text editor when you're using a rich text field from SharePoint, and how to either make that editable in Power Apps as rich text or make it viewable in Power Apps if you're using that as your interface to SharePoint. Here's the stinger. All right, so if you're new to Power Hour, this is a show we have weekly, Wednesdays at 11 Central, and we've been doing it for about 10 years, and you all vote. So we have, wherever you're watching this, there's a link to request to join and to join our newsletter. I send out the newsletter the day before, and the newsletter has links for people to vote on what the topic should be. So you all voted on how to use HTML in Power Apps. Now, this is not a brand new concept, but I wanted to kind of highlight several different things and methods that you might not know about, having to do with not only making things look lovely in your Power App, but having it usable, having rich text be usable in your Power App, and the cool way of sending pretty emails directly from your Power App. So I like to, when I'm sending emails, when I'm building a business solution in Power Apps, I like to keep it as simple as possible. So since you don't have to use a Power Automate flow to send an email, you can send the email directly from Power Apps. I do that a lot, and you can even make it look pretty from within the Power Apps. So those are some of the things we'll cover. So let me go ahead and share my slides. And Joelle's probably way more creative than I am as far as like making things look pretty. So, but I am not the most creative person. Okay, here's my screen. Okay, so here is, I'm sharing my screen now. This is, first of all, if you're new to Power Hour, this is where we chat. So when you request to join in the link below this video, you'll be in the Power Hour team. In the general channel, we have a tab for each time we have power. I just keep the last few in here. And then when you click this little chat bubble, that's what brings up the chat to talk to us and ask questions. So that's the fun part. You never know what's going to happen. And we have, live questions as we go. And this time I have my dog laying next to me, so I don't know what she's going to be doing or barking or whatever. So that's a wild card there. Hopefully she'll be good. Okay, so I actually have some slides, and I'll go ahead and show you a few concepts that we're going to be talking about. Let me go ahead and switch my display settings again. Okay, so first of all, we'll talk about sending an email from Power Apps, making a nice looking email. You can even use inline CSS. So if you know HTML or if you know CSS, you can go to town with inline CSS. You just can't like define the CSS in the body like you can a lot of the times when you're writing HTML and CSS. In the header. Concatenate a list of things in an email, which again, you can do that. You can make it look nice because you can make it look like a pretty table. And then the third thing we'll talk about is the rich text editor in SharePoint with the rich text editor in Power Apps. And those don't necessarily automatically work together. When you have a rich text field in SharePoint, it doesn't automatically create it in Power Apps. So I'll show you how to have a list of resumes. We'll show you how to create a field where you can paste the resume as rich text, and then how to have that usable in Power Apps. All right, so the first concept we'll talk about is sending an email from Power Apps. So the first thing you have to do when you want to be able to do this is to add the connector called Office 365 Outlook, and that will allow you to have this function that you see here on the screen. And you could create a button in your Power App to click the button that's in an email. You can have, what I usually do is in the on success, when someone is submitting a form, I put this in the form's on success property. I don't usually put it in the submit button itself. I put it in the on success to make sure the form has successfully been submitted before it sends the email. But that's typically the place where I'll put these. So as you can see, as you start typing this function, it's going to show you all the different sort of parts and pieces of data that you can put in it. all the different parameters. So when you say send email, it's going to ask for the to first. And in this example, I just have a text box where I'm putting the to in it. And then I'm putting the subject, and then I'm reporting to another text box. And then the trick here with the HTML is the body of this email. So I'm showing you just a very, very simple example with a bold. So that little B in the little brackets, I don't know what they're called, the carets, greater than, less than. The B tells it to be bold. So it says this is the body. And so this is the body is going to be bold, and then it's just going to have, some other text. But that's the trick, is that you're using HTML interspersed in the email. And the kind of the pain part is whenever your HTML has quotes, which you're going to have, especially like if you have a hyperlink or something, it'll have quotes around what the hyperlink is in that ahref. Then you have to do like this weird thing with like triple quotes and double quotes. And so I'll show you that as I do some of these examples. So the first thing we'll do is we'll just do a simple example of sending an email. So what I've got is I've got a couple of different Power App examples. I've got one that's going to be a recruitment tracker. So I'll show you that. Make sure it's zoomed in. And this is in the Power Hour tenant. So this recruitment tracker that you see on my screen, you all have access to this. I'll just put it in the chat real quick. And so that's just in the Power Hour site where we do the demos, where you all can go in there and add things sometimes. This is fun. I used Copilot to generate a bunch of fake these notes about the candidates. And then I'm going to show you how to make the notes. We're going to make this box bigger in Power Apps. And then another thing we're going to do is later on in this demo, we're going to add the rich text field in here so that we can paste the whole resume in the rich text, as opposed to having it as an attachment. Of course, you could do both, or you could have one or the other, but I have a specific Power App that I've built for a customer before, and their Power App had candidates when they first start working at a company, they're filling in all this paperwork. So the Power App is basically all this like onboarding paperwork, and they're putting their resume in here in a rich text field. So they have different resumes that they use for different projects they're on and things like that. So they're using it in the Power App as opposed to just having it as an attachment. So so you can visually see it in there. So that's kind of why the whole purpose that we'll be doing that. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'll just show you how to make it send an email and do a little formatting with the HTML and show you what that looks like. So I'll go ahead and customize this form some more with Power Apps. I published this earlier, customized it, and I published it, and then the list kept not showing the custom form. It was the SharePoint form. Like, it took me like an hour of refreshing it and closing the browser and doing all those things, and it finally showed up. So that was a little weird. Hopefully it won't behave like that during this demo. It'll just update when I update it. So here's my candidate resume. So I have the first thing that I need to do if I want to send the email from the Power App is to go add the Office 365 Outlook connector. And then that way I'll have that function that we talked about. So here's my form. Now, since this is just a customized list form, I just customized it a few minutes ago, like I mentioned, just this morning. It's already got it uses the save button and the cancel button and all those from SharePoint. So I don't need to add a submit button to this. It's got it all built in. But what I need to do is, what if I want the email to go directly when I send it? Now, I know that I always say that customized list forms are kind of a pain, but I wanted to show you this candidate example. There was already a recruitment template in SharePoint, and I wanted it to be able to do this fairly quick and build it fairly quick. So I just customized the list form. I usually prefer standalone Power Apps, and that's what I use in the real world, but I know you all are going to say that I customized the list form. So what I'm going to do is, the way SharePoint works when you have a customized form is, obviously you don't see a submit button, but it has the save button in SharePoint that it uses when you're in the list and you're, filling out a new form. You have this default save button. So the Power App uses this SharePoint integration thing, this sort of property, and this is where it defines what happens whenever you submit things. So when you click the SharePoint Save button, that's what submits the form. And then what I want to do, like I mentioned, is I want to go to the On Success. So I click the form, so I select the whole form, and then I go to the form property called On Success. So what this does is, by default, is that it resets itself and then it hides. So technically, when you're in a SharePoint list that's got a Power App, the Power App is already there open and it's just hidden. So each time you open a form with a Power App, you're really just unhiding it. So all it is doing after you submit the form is it's hiding. And then it will, appear again when you open another form. So what I want it to do is I want it to go, I'll just make it send the email before it does this. So I'll say Office 365 Outlook dot send email, send email version 2. They both work. And then you just start typing what your function is. Now, good Lord, this formula thing has got so much stuff in it. That's kind of overwhelming and annoying. What I really just want to see is what my options are when I am put that at the end there. When I'm opening my parentheses. There we go. That's what I was looking for. I had too much going on in my formula bar. So it needs my to, subject, body, and then I've got some extra things that it's going to need. So just the demo is not really going to be about this function. It's about the HTML part. So I'm just going to make the to and the subject very simple. I'm going to say the to is going to be just my little fake email address here. It is, what is it? Laura Rogers at IW Mentor Power Hour. Oh, that's long. I'll just say the currently logged in user email. And that way, when I publish it and you all try this, you all will get one at your email too. Let's see. And then the subject is going to be test email. And then here, the body is where we can do kind of some fancy stuff. So the body is where we can start typing HTML and making it look pretty. So what I've done is, and I shared this link in the notes, is that I put a link to this online HTML editor. So this online HTML editor starts off looking like this. And let me see if I can zoom in a little bit more. And what you do is you type and you use all these buttons to make your to make your text look pretty. And you do it in this visual way. And I even added a table here to make it look nice. And you do it in this visual way, but then when you click, I even added an image here, you click the source button, and the source button just gives you your HTML. So that's what you can use and take that and put it in your Power App, except again, with the quotes is going to be the most painful part, because the more quotes that you have in your HTML code, you have to go add like triple quotes inside the Power App. So that's kind of a pain. But what I've done here is, and one of the most common things that I've seen people want to do that's kind of tricky when it comes to, sending these pretty emails, is putting an image in it. So I wanted to go ahead and show you how to put an image in it. Now, what it has to do is, now technically you could put an image in SharePoint and just reference that image, and all the users have access to SharePoint. They should have access, but then when the email opens, you don't want it to like prompt them for credentials or something like that. So it really helps if you can put your image just online, just on a web page. And then when you put it on the web page, just referencing that public image just on the internet. So I went ahead and created this. I just have this web page where I kind of do stuff like that at our company, IW Mentor. And so I just created this page, and I have just a bunch of images that I put on here that I'll just reference sometimes. So you have to publish your image to like a public blog or something like that, or a public web page where you can get to that, whatever the code is for the image, the location of it. And then you right click and you copy the image address. So this is the one that I want to use as the header in my email. So then in the code here, I'm using this IMG. I'll just put an enter here. I don't know how well you can see that either. I don't know if zooming in really helps, but you can see it in the code that I shared with you in the notes. So it's IMG SRC, that's some HTML, and then it points to that public location. This is where I pasted that image address. So it points to the location. So then I just kind of gave it a width of 640, but I could say like width 100%. And when I say 100%, it just like stretches the whole thing out. And that would fill up the whole email, the whole top of the email if you wanted to do that. So that's one thing that you can do. Let's take just that and add this and add that to the email and add just a couple of things and just kind of see how it looks as we go. Oh, another cool thing that you can do in your Power App as you're building kind of the way you want this email to look is that you can utilize this. There's an HTML object that you can insert in your Power App that you can, it's a control that you can look at the HTML. So that way you can work on this code and see kind of getting the email to look right. And then you can visually see it at the same time before you don't have to like hit send and send the email over and over again. You can just see it on the screen what it's going to look like. So let's go ahead and try that. So here is this is the place where I'm going to put, let's see, this is your email body. And I'm going to do something really simple at first with the like italic, just so I can kind of close this out. And oh, and then another thing is, I think you still have to do this with the is HTML. No, maybe you don't. If you're using the Office 365 Outlook send email, it has an extra thing in here that an extra parameter for is HTML, and you have to use true. And that's in the screenshot I showed you a minute ago. But with the send email version 2, it looks like you don't have to do that. So yeah. Okay, so here is, let's go ahead and do this on another. I'm just going to create another screen in this app just to create the code, just to kind of have a little space where I can do that. And you could do this. This is a common thing you can do in your apps, is just to create a screen. None of the users are going to see a link to the screen. None of the end users aren't going to have a way to get to the screen. So a lot of times we'll do that, is we'll just create a screen and call it admin, and then just have like things that you're trying or data sources that you want to look at and things going on there that you, just for you, the designer of the app. So I'm going to go ahead and insert that HTML text. I couldn't remember what it was called. And by default, let me move this out of the way. By default, this is what it looks like, and you can see it over here. So this is where, if I'm working on my email and what it needs to look like, this is where I can start putting my code for what the body of the email is going to look like. So let's see. Now the image, I'm not sure if I've never tried putting an image reference like that in a Power App. The reason, okay, so if you're showing images in your Power App, you're going to upload them as media, and then people see the image in the Power App. But if you're going to send an email, since it's going outside of the Power App, that's why you have to reference that image that's on a public web page. So let's go ahead and take this and add a little to it. So this is the new candidate. And see, I can stretch it out. And I can see it as I'm typing like in the code here, you see. And then what I can do is put that person's name. If I have dynamic content, then I'm going to intersperse it with, and I'll just put my own name in here. So I'm interspersing this. So I have to put a space here because then I'm concatenating it together with this ampersand with my full name. And then if I want to put a period at the end, I have to put an ampersand and And there are different ways that you can, there's several different ways that you can concatenate text in Power Apps too as well. So this is how I'm taking HTML and I'm making it look nice, and I'm interspersing that with dynamic data. So then I can take this, now that I can see what it looks like and it looks nice, I can take that and put that in here as part of my HTML body. Let's see. Oop, got too many quotes. There we go. So now I'll go ahead and submit a form. The problem with this is when I'm testing it is that if I preview it and try to submit a form, it's not going to have any data. Let me see if it has any data in it. Okay, at least it's got something in there. All right. So yeah, no, that's the problem with submitting a form when it's a customized SharePoint list, is that there's no submit button because the submit button is over in SharePoint. So just to quickly test this, I'm just going to temporarily put a button in here. And then I'll get rid of it. So I'm just going to make that submit my form. And that is SharePoint Form 1. I just left its original name on there. Behavior function and a non-behavior property. Oh, I put it in the text. See what I did? I put it in the text of the button. Sorry about that. I'm gonna put it in the on select. In the regular buttons, it defaults to the on select. So it looks like this modern button, it just defaults to text, so it didn't know what I was trying to do. Okay, so preview it, submit my form, and then let's go look in my little fake email. So now, there's my email. So now let's go put that image in it. So I'll just use the image to make it look kind of nice. So I'll take that code. And this is where it's going to be fun because I'm going to have all those quotes that I have to deal with, right? So I'll take this, and that's a link. So let me make sure I get the whole thing. So it's got a link and it's got the image. So we'll put that in the Power App. Okay. Back to the, I can try and see if it renders here in the HTML text. I'm not sure if it's going to though. Let's see. Joelle, can you see what Lisa's, she's asking something? Oh, good Lord. Yeah, this is why I pre-wrote a whole bunch of this code, because of all the pain with all the quotes here. I don't know if I feel like dealing with that. Okay, not too bad. Oh, I put it in there. Look at that. I wasn't sure what to expect with that, but there's my image and it rendered in the Power App. Okay, cool. So I'll take this code and copy that, and then I'll put that, I'm going to use that now in my on success of the form. So let's see. Okay, and I'll go ahead and submit it and see what it looks like. There we go. Look at that, that's huge. So however wide the email client is, since I made it 100%, it's just going to go all the way across. So originally I had it set to 640 pixels, which would have been, more reasonable. But as you can see, that's how you can write HTML. Just remember, when you take HTML from an HTML editor, you see what I did with all the quotes. I had to put the double quotes, all the places that they were single quotes in the code, I had to change them all to double quotes. So that's kind of I didn't want to have to spend too much time doing that during Power Hour, but that's kind of the practice that you have to go through to get your HTML. So to summarize this portion, you can go to an online HTML editor like this one that I sent you in the chat, in the notes. And then you can use this WYSIWYG editor to make your HTML look nice by just using like the easy buttons with bold and tables and pictures and things like that. it's got all kinds of things, like even radio buttons and just a plethora of things in the toolbar that you can use to make your HTML look nice. And then all you do is you switch over to the source, and then you just copy that HTML, and then you put it over in your Power App, and then you sit there and you go through all the quotes and change them to double quotes. So yeah. Okay. So that's the method of sending a single email and having it look like lovely HTML without having to use a flow, just sending it directly from the Power App. And who knew you can actually render HTML images in your Power App? That's cool. So you don't even have to import the images in there. And the next thing we're going to talk about is, as you can see, since my slides are backwards, this is the concat. So I'll go ahead and flip that around again. All right. So if I want to send an email with a list of things, I need to use this concat function, because really using HTML, it's all one big long string. So we need to take the list of things and basically go row by row and concatenate all this data into one big long string of HTML. So in this example, I've got just a very, very simple example where it's got a date, hours, and a person. This is like a timesheet. And so it's a very, very simple example. And I pasted this in the notes as well. And this is where you're going to put the, as you can see down here, I've got the TH was the table heading. So I've got the table heading of each one of these. And then I've got the concat down here, which is where it's taking the timesheet. Now, all this in the filter here is where it's taking the timesheet from the SharePoint list and filtering it down to just the timesheet items for a certain project. So that's kind of what's going on with that. But then the key here with the concat to make it have multiple rows is that you're using this TR, which is a row in HTML, and TD, which is a cell. So you're starting your row, and then you're doing your first cell, and then the first cell is going to have the actual data of the work date in it. And then you're concatenating that with the hours, with the actual data. And then so it looks like I didn't put something in white text here. That makes it a little weird looking. So you're concatenating together the actual code part with the TR and the TD, along with the fields, so that it creates all the multiple rows. Does that make sense? All right, so let's go ahead and I'll show you an example of one of those, and we can look at how we can do it and how we can tweak it. So first of all, in my pretty little HTML editor, I created a table here. So this, what I did was I inserted a table, and then I kind of went into the code, and you don't have to do this. You could just use their toolbar. But I went into the code and I said that I wanted the table to have this first row to have a background of a certain color. And I wanted the body of each row after that to have a different color. So that's why it looks like this. So that's in the code. You can use CSS or HTML. When you use CSS, though, you just have to use it inline in each attribute. So this is a way that you can kind of get your table looking nice and then use that code over in the Power App. So I've got a different Power App here for this one, and that's going to be my company store. So my company store, I'll go ahead and preview that. This is more of a, oops. Oh, the little number 5 for the cart is in a weird spot. Sorry about that. Okay, so I'm previewing my app. I go to my products. I pick a product. I want to purchase that. I add it to the cart. And then the key is that I have a cart here. And I know I've demoed this in other demos before, kind of all the functionality in here. But what I want to show you here is the checkout process. So this is going to send an email with a list of the things in my cart. So let me just go to the products again and add like a couple more things to the cart. And so we can have 11 things now total. And then when I check out, that's going to send me an email. So here is my lovely formatted email. So I'll go ahead and show you what that looks like and how to get that looking nice. So you can use the method that I showed you in the HTML editor to get the code looking the way you want it with the colors, etc. And then you just have to go through kind of that painful process with the double quotes and the concat and everything to get it to look nice when it comes from your Power App. So we'll go ahead and look at what that code looks like. Let me go back to put a couple things in my cart again. And go back to my cart. This is one of the first Power Apps I created. It was pretty fun. So when I click checkout, what's going to happen? It's going to send an email. This is what I actually put in. I pasted this right here in the notes over there in the notes in Teams for you all. So this is, it looks like a mess, but I'm going to walk you through it. So what you can do is you can just take the exact code I just sent you and then kind of place like your information in it and just replace it and then kind of replace what the colors are and replace your data. But I want to show you what's going on. I've got, this is where I'm doing the table style, which has got what the background color needs to look like and some padding. And then I've got a table row. And my table header this is where I've got the color for the table header. And then for the headers, you're just typing the name of whatever the column is, like in your data. Like this is the item, which is going to be the name of the item. This is the end of that row. Here's another row. This is going to be the quantity. It's the end of that row. And then my third, sorry, those are 3 columns, item, quantity, and total. They're cells across the top of the table, as you saw in the email, item, quantity, and total. And then this is the tricky part. This is where we're going to be concatenating through things to make them look like a nice, pretty table. So I've got this collection of my order, and you could do the same thing with that HTML object that you can use like on an extra screen, like I showed you, to kind of get this looking nice. I've got my collection. So as I'm placing orders in this app, the checkout, the cart is just a collection. So I'm just, as I pick each item that I want to buy, I'm just adding it to a collection. So the thing that I'm concatenating through is this collection of my order. So this is my data. So whatever your data is, if it's a SharePoint list or if it's a collection or whatever, a table in a database, this is where you're going to put that in the concat function. So here's my concat. So I'm put an ampersand, which concatenates all this text with this Power App function. So I concat, and so the way the concat works, it needs a table, which is the data that you're concatenating through, and the expression is what are the pieces of information that I'm concatenating. So I'm concatenating this text with this piece of data, with this text, with this piece of data. So that's how it kind of all needs to be one big string. So I've got my title is dynamic. So the title is the name of the item and that's going to be listed here, like company shirt. And so that's my title. And then I'm like that's centered. So I've got some HTML that's centering the title. And then I've got, it's concatenating that with, I'm formatting the quantity in a certain way. So, and then I'm formatting that with, then I've got another cell where I'm taking the total and I'm formatting that a certain way. So my quantity and my total kind of look messy in here because they are numbers that I'm trying to make look nice in here and formatted in a certain way. Because if I just put them in by default, it would just kind of just give me this raw data that might not, have a $sign in front of it, etc. So that's why kind of all that extra code in there. And then I'm at the very end of the concat here. See, I can see this is the beginning and the end of the concat function. So this is where it's creating those 3 cells for all the body here. The dun, dun, dun. It's concatenating as it gets to each row it needs. And then at the very end, after the concat, I'm concatenating that with an ampersand to the end of the table. And then I'm doing a bold and I'm putting like a total at the end. And so you can see that's at the end. Any questions about that? I see a lot of comments. Joelle, what do you think?
No questions right now.
Y'all can get to the notes, right? What did Lisa send? Is that her example? Oh, that's a lot. Wow, yeah. Cool. I've seen people send those in teams too, I think. All right, so thanks, Lisa, for sharing. That looks like it's going to be lovely. I wish I could just grab that and paste it in and then just see what it looks like, but all my data would be different than yours, so I wouldn't be able to see it. Okay, so that's the first two. And so the next one is, I'm going to go through this again. Switch. And the next one is going to be the rich text editor. So there is a rich text editor type of control in Power Apps. And there's also a rich text field in SharePoint. So if you're dealing with SharePoint as your data, but the two don't automatically they're not automatically synced with each other. So when you have a rich text column in SharePoint, I'm going to show you all the extra steps you have to do to get it to function in your Power App. Okay. So for this one, I'm going to use my recruitment tracker. I'll get rid of this little annoying button that I created here. And what I'm going to do is I have all these candidates. So let me just go back to SharePoint. I have all these candidates that I'm tracking, and you can see I've got their data and so this customized form, customized with Power Apps. But I want to, like I mentioned at the beginning, I want to take their resume and not just attach it as a file, but I want to be able to have, I'm just going to use that as my example for rich text. So I'm going to take my rich text and create a column. So first of all, I want to show you what this notes, let me just show that notes column real quick and show you what its settings are. So for the notes column, this is just, it's not enhanced rich text. It's just plain text. So it just has the default. So I'm creating another column. It's going to be the multiple lines of text again, but I'm going to make it rich text. There. And so it's multiple lines of text, but here's where I say use enhanced rich text. And that is what is going to make it look a little bit different and that make them be able to paste a bunch of information. So I went to Word and I told Copilot to create a bunch of fake resumes for me. Isn't that fun? So Copilot just generated these fake resumes for me. I love it. And so I'm going to use those and paste them in here. So, but I need the Power App to work. I need it to have this new field in it, and I need it to be a rich text field in the Power App. So now that I've created that new column, I'll go ahead and customize it with Power Apps again. What do you all think is more interesting, the sending the HTML emails or the rich text field? Oh, also April Dunham did a really good video on HTML and Power Apps that's got how to make these really pretty buttons and just make your Power App look really slick. Joelle, can you see if you can find that and like put it in the chat? She's kind of taking a different approach than what I'm doing here because she's much more creative than I am. She's very creative. She does all kinds of cool, pretty things with her Power Apps. But so yeah, if you want to make see how to make it look really cool and pretty and make pretty buttons and pretty images and things, that video is going to be helpful too. All right, so I've got my notes field. So this one is the one that's not rich text. What I'm going to do is first of all, I want to stretch this across. I want to take my whole, my field here and unlock it. I want the whole form to be able to not snap to columns because I want this whole field to be able to stretch all the way across. Let me move that. And then I also want it to be multiple lines. So there's just the quick, easy way to make a field have multiple lines just for plain text is to do edit multi-line text. And that will just, again, this is just for plain text. So now this is a multi-line text field. So it just, it stretches out a little bit more. And then I'm going to add that other field that I created. What did I call it? Resume rich text. And I'm going to put that down here. And then I want to be able to paste my resume in there, but I want to use the rich text editor. So unfortunately, when I'm editing these fields, it doesn't provide me, let's see, I don't think it does. Oh yeah, it's got view rich text and edit rich text. So I need to not only swap this over to be editing the rich text when I'm editing the form, but what I like to do is when I'm viewing the form, I don't want to have to scroll through the rich text editor. I want to be able to just see all that HTML just right there on the screen. So I'm going to take this, kind of like do a couple of extra things with it. So I switched it to edit rich text. And now let's try this out. So let me go ahead and preview that. Oh, I can't preview. I've got to add a submit button again if I'm going to do that. Let me just do that because it just takes too long to go publish it to SharePoint and then wait. So I'm just going to kind of randomly stick this right here. And there. Okay, I'm going to go grab one of these resumes. Alice Smith. I told it to make them pretty short, so there's the first one. And then I'll preview this. And so I'm editing Brenda, well, it says Brenda Jones, whatever it resume says Alice Smith. So now look how nice that looks. So the person is in this rich text editor. Now, one of the negatives about the rich text editor is it can't auto expand. You just kind of get what you get with how tall you make that control. So I could physically just like make the control taller, but it's not ever going to auto expand to, it doesn't have like an auto height property that it will automatically get bigger. So I'll go ahead and submit that. And then, of course, it probably is going to send me that email that I put in the on success. And then I'm going to go through the steps of putting all the resumes in as rich text, but then I want you to see what it's going to look like when I'm viewing one of these. So I'll go ahead and what I want to happen, so let's go see what it looks like in SharePoint, is once when I'm in here editing it, I want to be able to just be editing the rich text and change things to bold and paste things in there. But when I'm viewing one of these, I want it to look like HTML and look nice instead of being in that little rich text editor. Let me go ahead and remove. I usually am not going to want to have columns that have a whole bunch of information in them. I'm usually not going to want to have those as columns. I'll just have them in the list. So I'll go to Bob Brown. See, it hasn't refreshed yet. So it usually takes a few hard refreshes of the browser when you make changes in Power Apps. That's why I was trying to do as much as possible in there as I was previewing it. So I'll just refresh it a couple of times. And there we go. So now this looks a little wonky with this big white thing at the bottom, but also I forgot to remove that submit button. But now I've got the notes and now I've got the ability to put some rich text in here, but I'm not in edit mode right now. I'm just viewing it. See how, so it looks a little weird. So I'll go ahead and click edit and then I'll just go grab whatever that next resume is. Copy and paste that in there. Not. Let's see. Oh, am I not editing it? No, that's weird. Oh, there it goes. It just wouldn't paste. See, I have this save button here, which is why I don't need to add a button. So now I have that one edited. So now we're going to make it so that it looks better when we're viewing one of these. Does that make sense so far? Okay. So I'll go ahead and go to Integrate, Power Apps, Customize Forms. And I'm going to go look at the view form settings. So I want that field to look different if I'm viewing the form. There's only one form in this app. See, I have a single screen that is being used, and I have one form control, and I'm just going to make this do something different when I'm viewing the form. So how do I know if someone's viewing the form or editing the form? There is a form mode. So I'm going to use the form mode as with a condition. So I'm going to take this whole control and I say I only want to see it, only want it to be visible if I'm editing the form. And then I'm going to add an HTML control and have it only be visible when I'm viewing the form. So I'm going to take this and go to its visible property. And then I'm going to say the name of the form dot, say if, the name of the form dot mode, is it mode or form mode? Yeah, it's mode, equals form mode dot edit. Yeah, actually I don't need to put an if in there. It's just if it's edit, then it's visible. Yeah, because your function that you put in here, or your formula, just has to evaluate to true or false, since visible is a true or false. So yeah, so now it is showing when I'm editing the form. And then I'm going to add, I have to unlock this card before I can insert that HTML control in it. So I'll go ahead and insert and go to my HTML. And now my HTML control is in here. Now I need to point it to the right data. I need to line it up correctly, and I need to put the function on it to make it only show in a certain time. So I'll go ahead and what is my HTML text going to be? So this control is saying what is its data. So its data is parent.default. So let me see if I can just do that. So now it's got like this raw, you can see that it's overlaid on top of this other one, but now it's showing all that HTML code. And I want it to automatically expand so that it shows the whole thing. So let me do auto height is true. And then it's gonna like just go on down the page. So I'll line this up with where this other one would show. So this one has a X is 32 and Y, I'll just give it the same. Actually, I'll just give it the same exact X and Y. So I'll just go to this HTML text and I'll point it to the data card value 11. I'll point it to its location to make it be in the exact same spot. It would help if I rename these something nicer, huh? Dot X. So now it's going to be lined up. And now I'll go to its Y. Value 11, Y. So now it's going to appear in the same place, and then also its width. Okay, so now it's going to just kind of appear where the other one would appear. And so I have this sort of gray background in my form. So I might want the resume to not have that gray background. So I might want to try and like put a, wonder if put a fill color of just white in here. Yeah, there we go. So since I placed it on top of all this other stuff, that's why it's automatically just showing on top. But I went ahead and just gave it a fill color of white so that it doesn't have like this gray behind the black words. Makes sense. So now, let's see. Now I need to go ahead and put the visible property. I could put an if statement in there like I did for the other one, but I could just say I want the visible property to be the opposite of whatever the data card value 11 visible property is. So I have, a few options for that. So I'll go to visible property. And the opposite, I'm going to give it a better name. I should just give it a better name. RCH for rich text. I just made that up. Okay. So that's my rich text box. I like to try to do that as a best practice. Is whenever I'm going to refer to something in a formula, I try to give it a good name. so that it makes sense. So it's going to be the opposite of that, dot visible. So now, right now, it's in edit mode, so that thing is visible. Let's publish it. Back to SharePoint. Okay. Now I think we have to refresh this a couple of times before it'll show. So I've got my new form. It still has that button in it. Let me try again. Do Control F5. That does a hard refresh. Now it looks like it's fixed. So that looks, the new box looks weird. I think I did something with the height in here. So when it's a new form, that rich text field looks weird. But so when I click on one just to view it, I just click the name of it just to take a look. Now look at that. So there's that whole resume pasted in there. So that's, let's see, Brenda Jones has one. That's the Alice Smith resume. So I can just, since I have the auto height for that rich text, I can just scroll and scroll and scroll. And that way they can put their resumes in there and still have it keep intact and how it looked and doesn't have to, strip away all the formatting. But now there it is. And you could even, if you wanted your Power App, when you send an email, if you have it send this, you could have that whole thing go as part of the email, all that text, and it would render, nice looking in your email. It would look just like that resume. Okay, so let's go edit it and see. Yeah, that looks fine. Just for the new one, it looked a little weird, but I might have to go fix that. Oh, you know what happens is I didn't put, so for that function where it's hidden, if it's in edit mode, I didn't take into account the new mode. So when it was new, that's why it looked weird. So let's just go fix one more thing. Change my logic a little bit. I'm just going to say it's not view or it is view. And that way it'll cover for the new and edit kind of needing the same form. Yeah, we'll go look at that big white space at the bottom too, Jean. Yeah. Okay, so here is, so this is where the form ends. And this is where my card ends. So the big white space was kind of weird. Let's go ahead, let me do my logic first. So the visible property of this rich text box is form mode, I'll just say is not view. And then the other one is going to be, it is view. So yeah, it's just going to be the opposite of what the other one is. And then, yeah, that big white box at the bottom was really odd. Let's see. I wonder if I made that bigger. I made the card bigger. Left a little space at the bottom. We'll see what that looks like. That might be one of those things where you end up losing hours of your life because you're trying to tweak Power Apps to like find some weird buggy thing and fix some weird buggy thing. Okay, I'll go refresh this a few times. And to get, sometimes when you're doing this, when you're customizing a list form, it helps, like if you're not sure if your versions don't look that different than each other, if you just changed a formula or something, if you actually type like V2, V3, you type it in a label somewhere on the Power App. So when you refresh this list, you'll be able to tell if that's the new version that you just changed. So yeah, that doesn't look like that one is. Try it again. So I'll click on existing one. Looks fine. New one. Oh yeah, so now there's my resume rich text. And then I can use my bold and things like that, and I can paste my information in. And I'm not sure about the white box at the bottom. That might be just a buggy customized form in a list thing outside of my control. I've never seen it do that before. So, all right, let me go ahead and go back to the slides, and let me flip us back, Joelle, to the, there we go. All right, were there any last questions? What do y'all think about that? not sure if I missed anything. Thanks, Lisa, for all your feedback. And oh yeah, I like that example, Lisa, that you gave of kind of what that original form looks like, and that looks familiar, and then the email that it goes to. So yeah, nice. So you all, I hope you enjoy that, and I hope you're able to try some of these things out. Go check out April Dunham's video. I love the part, her video about HTML and Power Apps, where you can make some really slick looking buttons in your Power App that look way better than just the default buttons. And thanks everybody for
Yeah,
coming.
she has
Yeah.
so many videos that say HTML. I wasn't sure which one.
Oh, okay.
I tried looking, but she has like a bunch of them that say like HTML Power Apps, so I wasn't sure exactly
really?
which one.
Oh, sorry. I think I just
Yeah.
watched whatever the first one was that I saw. So
Yeah.
And I always watch her videos and wish I was as creative as she is. I'm not creative.
It's
at
very
all.
creative.
All right. Well, let's see. Our next Power Hour is going to be next week, I think. I always have to look at the schedule. Yeah, March 13th. Thanks everybody for coming.